Land acknowledgement. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the ancestral land upon which we live, learn, love, and work. I pause to recognize original stewards of this place, including the Taino, the Tequesta, the Calusa, and today the Seminole tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee tribe of Indians of Florida. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past and present and elders of other communities who may be here today. In this acknowledgement, I honor the memory and legacy of Florida's original peoples as defenders and steward of this land. Let us take a moment to acknowledge that we are all on indigenous lands. So, yes, good afternoon. So this is the Artist Roundtable Juneteenth celebration, where we're going to get into a little bit of art, healing, social justice, and Juneteenth. So there'll be a blend of me reading and riffing from some of the slides I provided, and talking about Juneteenth, how to honor it, some of its history, a little bit about my art and my practice and nonprofit, and here we go. We'll have, I guess, Q&A afterwards. So as they said earlier, I am Niki Lopez, Afro-Latina interdisciplinary visual artist and curator and social practitioner. And we're going to explore the significance of Juneteenth and building community, some of the journey of me as an artist and founder of What's Your Elephant, which is a nonprofit that uses the arts to address the unspoken. And those are some websites. So what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth is known as the Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. It's a federal holiday in the United States, celebrated annually on June 19th. It commemorates the emancipation of enslaved people of Texas on June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Union Army General Gordon Granger and 2,000 federal troops arrived to formally inform the enslaved Africans and Black African Americans, people of the Galveston, Texas, 250,000 people, that the Emancipation Proclamation had freed them. Juneteenth represents freedom, resilience, and ongoing struggles for equality. Florida emancipation, so Juneteenth is the national holiday where people, but each state had different times that they implemented the emancipation. So Florida emancipation is May 20th, 1865, and that was 11 days after the end of the Civil War and 2 years after the proclamation first issued by Abraham Lincoln, freed of enslaved in southern states. For this reason, Emancipation Day is traditionally celebrated on May 20th. So some of us who are in Florida, we may have gone to both, sometimes we have something in May as well as Juneteenth. In Delaware, actually, just a little fact, is one of the last to ratify the 13th Amendment, outlawing enslavement, waiting until February 1901, 35 years after the Civil War. And actually, Mississippi just emancipated like 2012, right? And a fun fact that this does not apply to the incarcerated. So that's just something that, I felt it was important to sit with, because a lot of times, especially now when we're talking about Black history being taken out of schools and education, and it's in the past, right? It's actually not in the past. We're still experiencing it, and that's why we need to talk about these things and learn about these things and move forward. Symbols of Juneteenth. The Juneteenth flag, and I'm just going to let you know, I put together the things, but I'm going to be kind of reading and riffing a little bit about it, because the words are right there, right? The Juneteenth flag, a banner of a bursting star. The 5-pointed stars refer to both Texas, nicknamed the Lone Star, and the freedom of African Americans in all 50 states. Running through the center of the flag horizontally is an arc that's meant to symbolize the new horizon of opportunity for Black people. The initial flag was created in 1997 by activist Ben Haith and with the help of the artist Lisa Janine Gaff. The most common and official Juneteenth flag reflects red, white, and blue, along with the 2 stars and 1 5-pointed stars. And I actually learned this morning that outside star was like the nova, like bursting out, right? And in many African-American Black communities has also adopted the Pan-African flag to represent Juneteenth, which is red, white, green, red, black, and green. It's a Pan-African flag which dates back to 1920. But I do think it's also important to mention here, right, because we're not a monolith and everyone connects to different points of history. There are many people, this is the official flag. There are some African American and Black people that like to use the Pan-African colors, and there are also some that are totally against it because they feel that kind of changes the origin. So when we're planning and thinking of these things, that's something to consider, that not everyone identifies with the colors, so, you know, there's that. Ways to celebrate Juneteenth. At its core, Juneteenth is about celebrating the end of an atrocity committed upon one racial group by another. Many of us understand to some degree the systems of oppression and impact of inequality in this country and hope towards a common goal of equality, visibility, and equity. So a main rule to consider when celebrating Juneteenth that it should always center African Americans and Black people. And you know, I'm very intentional about putting African Americans and Black people because they're not one and the same. Actually, I got a call from, I'm actually first generation American, so I actually learned about Juneteenth holiday a few years back when I was invited to do an art project. And one of my sisters like, why are you celebrating Juneteenth? You know, you're not African American, you're first generation. I said, yeah, but newsflash, you know, they had enslaved Africans in North America, South America, Caribbean, the islands, everywhere, and it's what it represents, right? So, you know, I say Black people and African Americans, you know, interchangeably. So consider attending local Juneteenth events, visit a Black museum or cultural site, support Black organizations and individuals in your community. For non-Black allies, Juneteenth is a great opportunity to show solidarity by volunteering your time and or resources to support Black community members, give back to Black organizations and charities that serves the needs of African Americans and Black people, educate yourself on the origins of Black culture in America, including its oppression and appropriation. Consider concrete ways that you could use your power and privilege to uplift Black people, Black communities, and Black causes. Commit to dismantling white supremacy and honoring Black labor. And this is a picture actually from this Sunday. Me and my niece, we went down to Overtown, a historically Black neighborhood, and they had an event there at the D.A. Dorsey House. It was like a wellness event. They had poetry, they had art, and all those things. And so, especially because of the crowd, the mix of people that we have here today, right? And you know, everybody wants to celebrate and honor, and we also know in America where everything is commercialized and, you know, not everybody does things with the right intentions. It was just really important to make those ways, and when we're thinking about these things, right? Because there's a difference between when something is targeted to Black people and when it's Black owned or Black people doing those things. And one of the significant differences that sometimes we can create things targeting Black people, but if it's not led by Black people, the people who benefit the most are not the Black people, and sometimes those people are not connected to the actual people that they want to attend those events. So I think it's very important, especially for us and everyone in the room, to keep those things in mind as we move forward, how to ethically do something, right? If we're doing Juneteenth, I love that NSU said, hey, can you do it? Great, sure, no problem, right? And diversity is important, but we want to make sure, because of the context of Juneteenth, that it always centers Black people, African Americans. And this is just a nice quote I love. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. James Baldwin. And I love the fact that he's a Black author and a queer author because it's June, and so for some of us, happy Pride also. So this is an older piece that I made, 2012. So art is a tool for healing. Just an example of some of the pieces that I do. So this piece is called Olokun. It was created in honor of Juneteenth and symbolizes the journey from enslavement to freedom. Olokun, the Yoruba Orisha of the sea, watches over the past, present, and future. This artwork serves as a powerful tool for healing and bringing communities together. As a first-generation American, learning about Juneteenth profoundly influenced the direction of this work. I also enjoy incorporating lost stories, cultures, and symbols and ideologies into my paintings. The enslaved Africans were stripped of their cultures, language, and religions, so I turned to Yoruba practice, which are the roots of Afrocentric spirituality. Orishas are divine spirits in the Yoruba religion of West Africa and several religions of the African diaspora, such as Haitian Voodoo, Santeria, Cambole. Olokun, an androgynous Orisha associated with the sea, is considered the patron of the African diaspora carried away during the transatlantic slave trade. Olokun is a protector of the living dead and the unborn. Throughout my work, I incorporate themes of mark-making, colors, symbols that taps into Afrocentric and diasporic spirituality, and this painting depicts enslaved people looking forward to future generations being born free with broken shackles, while Olokun watches over all of us. So that there goes that star, and that's part of my work. I like to do research, and I like to look at those different things. And part of that is when the enslaved Africans were brought over here, they were stripped from their culture, their heritage, their language. They're beaten into the religions that they currently have. And so for me, in my practice, in my personal journey, I want to go, what's before that? What was taken away from that? So for me, I lean into a lot of Afrocentric spirituality, Yoruba culture practices, and different things like that. And there's different elements of that throughout pieces of my work. Intersection of art, history, and social justice. Art allows me to voice an opinion, challenge a perspective, and inspire change. Art has always been a vehicle of storytelling, vulnerability, social justice, creating spaces for those marginalized and challenging social norms. By incorporating historical elements and cultural symbols, artists can inspire meaningful dialogue and drive positive change. So a few of these are just kind of like a little snapshot, if you will, of some of my art and practices. I'm starting from the sculpture, the mask. So I have a lot of mask and mask elements that has been throughout my work. Sometimes I paint my face, and mask takes on different meanings, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but also when I was talking a little bit earlier about the Afrocentric spirituality, and that's kind of present in that work with the cowrie shells, which are used to connect to and talk to the orishas, the colors, the mark making, and this is about healing, right? So some of my work is talking about my personal journey through healing through the arts, going through traumas and healing. And so this one is actually called Guardian, where it's like, when you go through things and you get to a point where you become your own guardian and your own parent, right? So these other masks are kind of one of those things as well. The one with the scars is healing from within and a hero's journey. It's talking about going from trauma to healed. And that piece actually comes out of a therapy session that I attended, and we had this piece, and I liked that we were using words and art, and I actually made an art piece out of something that came out of a session. I'm also, though it's not as active anymore, but it's still very relevant, Artists for Black Lives Matter. So back in 2014, me and 3 other artists, we co-founded Artists for Black Lives Matter. We're not connected to the Black Lives Matter official movement, but we wanted to do something as artists. It initially started out as, what are ways that we could do like a silent and peaceful protest, right? And so Art Basel, millions of people come down to Miami to see art. So one of my artist friends, she said, we want to do something with all that was going on in the world. And we initially was making 12 by 12 and asking people to make 12 by 12 of like, what does Black lives mean to you? But it's also representing any loss of life due to racial injustice, right? And so initially we took some of the works and we put them all over Miami. We did a couple of shows. The bottom one is from a What's Your Elephant art exhibition, where all of the art in the room was about an elephant in the room topic. And this art and performance and community outreach. This one in the middle with the words, this is also kind of tapping into some of my healing journey. It's called Homegrown, and so it's talking about some of the traumas that I went through, and it just, coming out into the artwork, but also not as a place to like, oh, here, look at this, right? But that's also kind of what led me eventually to start What's Your Elephant? Because as I shared those things, it allowed other people to say, hey, this would happen to me, right? And when we talk about social justice and inequalities and all those things, art can be a powerful tool because it's a space for us to be able to share and be vulnerable and to see different points of views. And so realizing that we do art shows, we do art making workshops with conversations, we normalize conversations about mental health and sharing things, right? A lot of times we stay in our own little bubble and we feel that we suffer because we're the only ones going through this. But if we're courageous enough to share some of those things, someone else says, oh, I've been through this, or this is what helped me. And now that's another way we have like a little piece of community building where I said something that I was holding on to. Sometimes I've had someone come in, they were 72 years old and holding on to something for 72 years, right? And it was a relief, but it also allowed other people to say, oh, maybe I could do that too, right? So we use that in reference to talking about traumas, social justice, LGBT issues, racial injustices, just different things all the things that we don't normally discuss, I'm encouraging and wanting people to want to discuss it more. And I also have a project that I'm doing I might talk about a little later, that's kind of along those realms. And then I also teach art to, I do teaching art residencies with Art for All, and I go into the schools and I teach children with special needs art, and I also go into the DJJs and teach art to the people with the teens within the juvenile detention center. And with that, I'm still bringing the elements of What's Your Elephant, but also, especially because of the circumstances, talking about second chances and redefining yourself and not saying that you're bound to what you're in right now, right? So you might be in this situation. You might have parents who said, I'm not coming. There's people in in that space, some of the teens are like, my parents won't see me just because I'm here. So in a space where that youth actually needs community and family, they're being cut off. So giving them art tools and language and colors and ways to express around, this is just a moment, this is a page in your book, and you don't have to, just because you did something to have you end up here, that doesn't define who you are. You have to define who you are, no matter what the guard tells you, your mom tells you, the teacher tells you. You have to define who you are in those situations. So these are a couple of quotes that I really like and lean into. Art changes people, and people change the world. And Nina Simone, an artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times. And Alice Walker, activism is my rent I pay for living on this planet. And these are really important to me because, I'm everything, someone says, oh, you're always talking about art. I said, yeah, but it's a big tool. You can't have a protest without a poster, right? So imagine how that protest would be if there's no one shouting a chant, doing a poem, doing a poster. Art is a powerful tool. When people, just to kind of go back to the Artists for Black Lives Matter, and not to, I had someone that, came to one of the exhibitions, and it was a white person, and she came to me and she said, she actually thanked me for the ability to be able to go and absorb all that information without intimidation, because though, some of us may be familiar with the term of white fragility and, oh, I don't want to feel guilty, so that's why we can't talk about it. We have to talk about these things, right? So, but the thing is, sometimes people really want to know, and because there's so much polarizing information, there's not a space of comfort where someone could go in. Let's say, for example, when we did talks, and one of the artists for Black Lives Matter was white, and they're like, why? And I said, well, why do you think it's only a black issue? Right? It's an everybody issue. It's an all hands on deck. So just being able to give a space where people could use that. So she said that sometimes that she wants to go into certain spaces, but as a white person, she feels intimidated, or sometimes people will say something, so she doesn't. And she felt that this gave her a space to kind of absorb some of what was going on in a safe space for her, right? So that's also meeting people where they are, because if we can't meet people where they are, where are we going with discussing and understanding people and creating a bridge and creating real change, not just performative change. It's trendy, it's Black History Month, so we're gonna use Black History hashtag, real change, right? So, and so what's your elephant? So this is just a little bit of some clips from some pieces of What's Your Elephant. One of the artists that was in the exhibition, she was talking about women and issues that happen, you know, things that happen. She had this big sculpture, lifelike sculpture, with stories of all the things that happen, and not just women, girls, right? Because some of the stories were youth, you know, young children. So this is just little snippets, you know, Butterfly, some people may be familiar with her, doing poetry. Also like the art making workshop. So when we do the art making workshop, we're giving people supplies, and sometimes it's any elephant in the room topic, or sometimes it's themed for a particular elephant in the room topic. So like, for example, one time we did something, we were in an underserved community, and we did something focused on trauma, right? Because when we talk about, you know, oh, the high crime rate, the low income, the this, the that, we're talking about the issues, but really a lot of those things, the underneath that is untalked about trauma, right? So giving people a space to kind of dig into that. Sometimes I, you know, do it as just me and who are the participants. Sometimes I have a mental health counselor there, because, you know, creating a safe space. You know, and I tell people I'm not a counselor. I've had years of therapy. I had my therapy yesterday. You know, I advocate for it, but I'm not a counselor, so I'm very mindful to say this is what helped me. But I connect people to resources, because when you give people spaces, I realize every time they need more spaces, right? People say, I don't want to talk about this. Then they start to talk about this, right? And having a space where one of the artists, she was a white artist in one of the shows, and she had said, you know, I was racist one time because I got mugged at a gas station by 2 black guys, right? And having her be comfortable saying that, but she had to work through that and realize, okay, it's not every black person that robbed me. It was 2 people who happened to be black, right? But the space to say that, because sometimes we're afraid to say that. I'd rather hear someone say, I'm a racist, I'm prejudiced, I'm this, because now we have a ground, we have something to talk about. But if you go to someone who's smiling and they denied your loan because of your skin color, or they're smiling but they backstabbed you, they're smiling and they're secretly oppressing you, we can't get anywhere if we're not willing to look at those things and dig into that. So yeah, What's Your Elephant is a movement that uses the arts to create a safe space to address the unspoken. It includes visual, performing, and interactive arts, exhibition, community building, talks, hands-on project, workshops, and other events that demonstrate how the creative arts can assist in self-healing, mental health, strengthen communities, and create social and systemic change. This movement started in 2014 and is now a 501c3 arts and education nonprofit whose aim is to create an inclusive environment where voices are heard, stories are shared, and healing begins. What's Your Elephant collaborates with community groups, artists, nonprofits, and corporate organizations, and that's the website if you all want to get any more. I think that's the last slide. So this is just a little bit about what I do. Someone did ask me, thank you, if I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm doing now. I have my own art practice, but I'm also a curator. And I'm really drawn to things with causes and purpose. I do like aesthetics like everybody, but to me, I feel my passion and my purpose lies with being able to use my voice, my platform, my art to create spaces to talk about things that matter and to bring people together, bring different people together, talk about different things and be provocative, right? A lot of times we hold all these things in and nothing's going to change if we hold it in because no one reads minds. Well, some people read minds, but in terms of, one of the stories I share sometimes is, and I'm bad with names, but the lady who, I know you all know her, she played Uhura in Star Trek. And yeah, so she actually got frustrated from playing that role and was going to leave because she felt she was just sitting there, not doing anything. She felt her role was irrelevant, but she shared that with someone. And that someone shared it with a big Star Trek fan who happened to be MLK, who came to her and said, you have a purpose because you're a symbol, you're a person that's on TV, that's not a maid, that's not a slave, that's not a drug addict, chasing after baby daddies and all those things. You're someone that's not those norm typical, like, oh yeah, we're gonna have black people, but that one doesn't have a strong character. That one doesn't have a father in the home. That one's on drugs, right? And so she stayed. But the important thing is if she never said that, she could have just walked away. And she did things in TV and in science, for the community, for women, for people, humanity. So my thing is to get people to talk about these different things. One of the projects that I'm doing currently, my nonprofit is partnering with CSC Broward, Children's Services Broward, and I just put out the call to artists, but we're working on creating an exhibition and program around the impact of the Baker Act to youth and families. So, if some people are, I don't know if you're familiar with the Baker Act, and someone is involuntarily taken away from a home, a school, whatever, and they're, in seclusion for 10 to 48 hours with no contact. And there's a lot of inhumane parts of that, right? And it's traumatizing for the child as well as the family. We're not even getting into if there's a language barrier, if they're a marginalized person, a gender, queer, what if they're deaf, having all those things, right? So we have a couple of commissioned artists who's creating work, and we also have a call to artists to look for work, because even though it's very niched about the Baker Act, they still overlap, talking about mental health and feeling trauma and feeling unseen. So we're working with that with the CSC Broward, and I have a couple of donors that's donated to the What's Your Elephant project to have that happen. That's going to be later on. That's going to be an exhibition in August, hopefully in Hollywood Arts Park. So that is coming up. And if you want, I know we're going to have some Q&As, but just if you want to have get more information about me and the work that I do, you could go to nikilopez.art. You could also go to What's Your Elephant. I'm on social media. There's ways to come out to an exhibition. There's ways to support. There's ways to donate. Hint, I'm black, so if y'all want to send me some money today, that's fine. So, laugh out loud, but seriously. But anyway, this is just, a little bit of a brief overview of what I do, and also what the meaning of Juneteenth is, and how we could honor it in an ethical way. And also, and because it's Juneteenth, and it's also Pride, right? People talk about, a lot of times, organizations, that all of a sudden everybody has rainbows. All of a sudden everyone has Juneteenth. And I can't leave this space without saying that when we are wanting to have the intentions of supporting, whether it's LGBT, Black Pride, Pride, Juneteenth, Black History, whatever it is that we're doing, make sure that we're doing our due diligence and doing research on that organization and that corporation, because some people will sell you a rainbow t-shirt, and they take that money and then they go and give money to people or groups that are anti-LGBT or anti the thing that you were trying to support, right? So art is powerful, and so is money and dollars and support and what we give our attention to. And so I also want to kind of use that space to kind of like share that with the room, like how, you could support by giving money. You could support by sharing content on social media. You could support by the things that you say or share with people. There's many ways, but also to be really intentional about that support, to make sure that your intentions to support whatever said organization is really where it's supposed, that it's aligned with your values. And that's it for me.